Welcome to Theme Weavers, your weekly wisdom for weaving yoga themes into your classes to inspire your students. I'm your host, Heidi. Let's get started. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Theme Weavers. I'm so glad you're here with me today for episode 93. We're deep into the transition of the new year, clearly, because I'm wearing a winter hat inside, if you can see me. And I've been thinking a lot about what it actually means to show up. That's where my thoughts have been lately this past week. So I do want to take you back a few weeks ago to when I was in Florida on vacation. It was school vacation week, and while we were there, my daughter decided that she wanted to take tennis lessons at my parents' place where they live. There's like a tennis place where they are. So for context here, she really wants to try out for the tennis team in the spring at the high school. She's taken a few tennis lessons with a local teenager who's been amazing. She's on the tennis team. She's lovely, but she's not a professional tennis coach. But I felt like if she's truly committed to trying to be on the high school team, my husband and I both felt like it was necessary to take some actual tennis lessons with a tennis pro to see if it's something she really wants. Now, to be totally honest with you, as you know, I'm a yoga person and my knowledge of tennis starts and ends with the ball goes over the net. That's actually not true. I have a sweatshirt. When we were first dating in high school, my husband was a camp counselor at an overnight camp, and he was one of the tennis teachers, I guess. I don't know what they'd be called, tennis coaches. I don't know. That was like his job while he was at camp as a counselor. And they had team sweatshirts, and over the bum in the back, it says nice ace. So I knew that the word ace was a tennis word too. And I have that sweatshirt still. It says John on the arm. It's like so cute. It's from 2001. Anyway, I even wanted to call it auditioning for the tennis team since I'm also a theater and music person. But my son always reminds me it's trying out. Mom, not auditioning. You're so embarrassing. When it comes to sports, it's trying out. Anyway, the teacher was this incredible woman. She was about a 6 foot tall Romanian pro. She was this perfect mixture of kind and firm. You could just tell that she didn't teach tennis. She also obviously she taught tennis, but she didn't just teach tennis. She really seemed to teach discipline also, while trying to keep it somewhat fun, but while working very hard, which is what I wanted my daughter to experience if she was going to try out for the team. So my daughter really wanted me to stay and watch the whole lesson. And at first I felt that little internal tug of war that us parents tend to feel. I had already made a plan. I was going to go to the gym. I wanted to go get my own workout in while she was playing tennis, but I was already mentally checking boxes of what I wanted to get accomplished. But then I had one of those rare moments of clarity. I looked at my daughter and I realized in a few short years, she isn't going to want me watching her, or maybe she won't even be living in the same state as me. So she's going to want her own space. So I realized that holding on to this time right now was definitely more important than my workout. I could do my workout afterwards. It was okay. It was vacation, time for it all. So I then sat down on the chair, grateful that there was some shade in the Florida sun, and I just watched her. I don't even think that I had my phone with me, which is a rare gift and doesn't happen that often, but it's wonderful when that happens. As the lesson started, I watched them do the work. They started with warm-ups. They did lunges, butt kicks, running drills, running around the court, doing little high knees, things like that. All the things we do to prepare the body for the effort that's going to be ahead. Then the coach went to the other side of the net and started throwing balls at her, throwing the balls. Their rhythm was pretty relentless. It wasn't giving in, wasn't giving up. It was just ball after ball after ball after ball after ball. The rule was simple. If my daughter hit the ball into the target zone, which I guess is the white area on the court, I told you I don't play tennis, she got a point if she hit it into that area. If she missed or hit the net with the ball or hit it out of bounds, she didn't get a point. If she got 4 points in a row, the drill changed. She moved closer to the net for the next one. If she missed, she went back to 0. But here was the thing. The coach didn't stop to talk. She didn't offer a good job or it's okay after every hit. She just kept throwing the balls at the exact same tempo, regardless of the outcome. Right? She'd say 1, 0, 2, 0, wherever she was at. That was it. And then they came again, like a human ball throwing metronome. I started watching my daughter's face while this was happening. When she hit a great shot, she'd light right up. But when she missed, she would watch the ball roll away. Her face would scrunch up in frustration, and she'd still be looking at that missed ball while the next ball was already flying over the net toward her. Because she was busy thinking about the ball that she missed 2 throws ago, she would then miss the one that was happening right in front of her. And then she'd sort of smile and laugh at herself while still having the body language of frustration. I knew what she was really feeling, even though she was smiling and giggling, and the cycle would continue. While I was watching her at that moment, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I realized this is yoga. In the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali gives us the second sutra, 1.2, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga is the settling of the fluctuations of the mind. Those fluctuations, the vrittis, which you've heard me talk about before, are exactly what was happening on the tennis court. One of those fluctuations that was happening in my daughter's mind, I believe, was called Smriti, or memory. My daughter wasn't really struggling with tennis. She was struggling with Smriti. She was living in the memory of the missed shot. And because she was in the past, she couldn't really be an active participant in the present. Let me also say that by living in the past, she very much was able to hone in and focus on all of the missed shots rather than all of the fantastic shots that she did hit. And so she was much more negative about herself. Like, I stunk today. I have to do better at the next lesson, rather than just like, I hit the ball a lot and I worked really hard and I'm proud of myself for where I'm at today. So let's dig into this word that I just said a moment ago, Smriti, for a second. Because in yoga, memory isn't just about remembering where you put your car keys, which many of us have little iPhone tracker things, tiles, or whatever they're called to find them. But Patanjali defines Smriti as the retention of experiences. It's the mind's ability to store everything that has happened to us. And on that tennis court, my daughter was essentially being haunted by the ghosts of a ball that didn't even exist anymore. That ball that she missed, it was long gone. It was sitting against the fence, inert and powerless. It was just sitting there. But in her mind, through Smriti, that ball was still flying. It was still out of bounds. She was reliving the failure in real time. I wouldn't even call it failure, but she would. Think about how often we do this in our own lives. We have an awkward interaction at the grocery store, or we make a mistake on a work email. And for the next 3 hours or 3 days, we are replaying the tape. We aren't in the present moment with our kids or our partners or our students or even ourselves or our pets. We're stuck in the Smriti of 3 hours ago or 3 days ago. We're staring at the ball by the fence while life is throwing the next one right at our heads. We just don't even see it because we're stuck. And Yoga Sutra 1.11, so the first chapter, verse 11, Patanjali explains that memory becomes a problem when we let it color our current reality with old emotions. When my daughter looked back at that missed shot, she wasn't just remembering it, she was attaching to it. She was letting the point, right, the tennis point, she didn't get define the swing she was about to take. In our practice, Smriti shows up as judgment. At least that's how I think it shows up. We remember that last week we could do a bind and a lunge, and today we can't. Suddenly, we aren't practicing yoga anymore. We're practicing comparison to a memory. We're trying to hit a ball that was thrown a week ago. The real discipline that Romanian tennis coach of hers was teaching, the discipline of yoga as I see it, is the ability to let the experience go the second that it's over, to have a short memory for the mistakes and the successes alike. Because the moment that you label a shot as good or bad, you've stopped being in the flow of the game. You've stepped out of the rhythm and into the library of your mind. Yoga asks us, can you let the ball roll to the fence without following it with your eyes? Can you stay at the net with your knees bent and your heart open, ready for whatever is coming at you right now? We do this on the mat all the time, don't you think? You're in a balancing pose, you wobble, you fall out. For the next 3 poses, you aren't actually practicing. You're maybe internally berating yourself for falling out of that tree pose 3 minutes ago. 3 minutes ago, you've left the room entirely. You left the breath. You're somewhere else other than here. There's also a beautiful connection here to the Bhagavad Gita. I don't know if you've ever read it. It's a good one if you haven't read it. In chapter 2, Krishna tells Arjuna, you have a right to the labor, but not to the fruits of the labor. I'll say that again. You have a right to the labor, but not to the fruits of the labor. If you aren't attached to the fruit, the tennis point, then the memory, the Smriti, of missing that fruit doesn't have any power over you. You're free to just swing, to be. The tennis coach was trying to teach her to love the swing, not the point. When we focus on the point, the outcome, the perfect pose, the fruit, as it said in the Bhagavad Gita, we become paralyzed by the results. When we focus on the action, the ball right in front of us, the breath right in our lungs, we are finally free. I don't know if you listened to the song ever. It's not a new song. Beautiful Boy, the Beatles, John Lennon. Well, John Lennon famously said, "Life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans." I think we can adapt that for our yoga practice. Yoga is what happens while you're busy thinking about the last pose, right? Don't you think that makes sense? If we're always rehearsing the future or replaying the past, we aren't living. We're just spectating our own lives. To be an active participant in your life means you have to be willing to miss the ball, to let it roll away and look back at the coach, which is our life, right? The coach is our life in this analogy, to see what is coming at you now. You have to stay present for what's happening in front of you. The tempo, which is like the pace, the timing of life, doesn't stop because we're frustrated. Before we keep going, I want to pause for a quick moment and say that if you're enjoying Theme Weavers, it would mean so much if you would follow the show and leave a 5-star review wherever you listen. It truly matters for the algorithm and it helps the podcast get recommended to more teachers and students who might really benefit from this work. You can also find Theme Weavers on all the social channels. I try to share short reels and teaching nuggets there throughout the week. There is also an option to become a paid subscriber of Theme Weavers for a small monthly fee. Not only does it show your support, but if you're a chromatic yoga teacher, your paid subscription actually allows you to track your listening as continued education hours. If you have questions about that, please email me at themeweaverspodcast@gmail.com. And if you want to go deeper and work with me online, all of the links are in the show notes below. Check out Theme Weavers Academy. It's a practical course to help you craft more impactful classes with clarity and confidence. You can also explore my book, Energize Your Life, a chakra workbook for personal transformation. And if you're leading a yoga teacher training program, I do offer a half-day workshop on the chakra system and how to integrate it into theming. It's one of my favorite things to teach. And finally, there are my bite-sized yoga programs, short, under 11-minute chromatic yoga classes, as well as bite-sized yoga self-myofascial release. It combines using self-myofascial release tools with yoga. Both are lifetime access. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And let's get back to the episode. The breath doesn't wait for us to be ready. How funny would that be? Yeah, every time you take an inhale, you could be like, ready. No, it just keeps moving. Our job isn't to be perfect. Our job is to stay in the rhythm. So as you move through your practice today, I want you to imagine that Romanian tennis pro on the other side of your mat. Every inhale is a new ball. Every exhale is a new ball. If you lose your focus, fine. That ball rolled away. Let it go. If you nailed the most beautiful transition of your life, great. The ball is gone too. In either situation, in both situations. Don't let the points or the misses pull you out of the current moment. Stay in the tempo. Stay in the swing. So that's the Dharma talk that I gave during, was obviously much shorter, but that's the Dharma talk that I gave in one of my classes this past week, inspired by that experience watching my daughter play tennis. So let me walk you through more than just that part. So now that we have the Dharma talk done, how do we apply it to the actual class? I have a few ideas to share, some that I used in the actual class itself where I taught this theme, and others I thought of afterwards that I think would work as I was preparing to share this theme with you all today in our Dharma talk. So let's say you want to offer a pranayama practice, a breath work practice. You could teach what's called samavriti, equal ratio breathing, using a 4-count inhale and a 4-count exhale, right? That's when you breathe into the count of 4, breathe out to the count of 4. You could say something like, if you were going with the tennis analogy, in tennis, the coach throws the ball at a steady tempo. In yoga, the breath is our coach. It doesn't care if your last pose felt good or bad. It just keeps coming. If you lose the count, don't look back at the ball you missed. Just catch the next inhale. Let's find that 4-count rhythm together. So then you'd guide your students through this breath practice after giving them that little contextual information at the start. And then as for the physical practice, you might want to focus on the concept of the swing, not the point. So as you move into sun salutations, Surya Namaskar, you would focus on the transitions, in my opinion, rather than the final shape. And maybe you say something like, can you love the swing as much as the point? Don't rush into plank or downward dog just to get there. The yoga is in the transition, the swing of the racket. If you feel in your mind judging your alignment, you've stopped swinging and started counting points. Come back to the movement. That's to really help us get back to it doesn't matter what happened, just be in the experience for the experience. And then as for the peak pose, working on balance to help bring us back to Smriti and memory might be a nice decision here. You could use a challenging balance pose like Half Moon, Ardha Chandrasana, or Warrior 3. Wow, I just said that very Bostonian. Warrior 3, Virabhadrasana 3. These are poses where people tend to, what we might think of as miss the ball by wobbling or falling out of them. Any balance pose really could do that though. And that would be when you would tell them that this is where we practice Smriti. If you wobble or if you fall out entirely, that's just a ball rolling to the fence. It's over. It's inert. If you spend the next 3 breaths frustrated that you fell, you're missing the ball that life is throwing at you right now. Can you fall out, smile, and immediately come back to the rhythm of the breath? It's a challenge for people, almost more of a challenge than standing on one foot in and of itself, don't you think? So then in postures that you might find that are more restful, like pigeon or child's pose, well, they're not necessarily restful for everybody, but in those type of postures, you can relate this to when the body slows down, Smriti memory usually gets louder. So maybe you'd say something like, now that we're still, the mind might want to start replaying the highlight reel or the low light reel of the class thus far. It wants to go back and look at the balls sitting by the fence. Can you use your exhale to clear the court? You don't need to hold on to the memory of how this pose felt yesterday or even 5 minutes ago. This is a brand new throw. Can you be here for it, present in the new throw? There's also the recommendation that I have for you that we talk about in chromatic yoga of sprinkling in some little phrases throughout the class to drop like breadcrumbs to keep your students connected to the theme, right? You sprinkle the breadcrumbs down, you follow the path from the Dharma talk all the way to the closing throughout the whole class. Might say them during transitions or while holding a pose to keep the theme alive without doing a full Dharma talk, but it brings us back, it connects us back to the Dharma talk that we gave at the start. So one phrase that I might use here is don't stare at the miss, catch the next ball, or be an active participant, not a spectator of your own thoughts. Or what about the tempo of the breath doesn't wait for your frustration. Treat every inhale and exhale as a new ball being thrown over the net. A lot of it relates back to the tennis example of what I gave in my Dharma talk. It reflects back nicely to it. So then when we finish the class and Shavasana is complete, I like to bring us back to the theme to truly make it a cohesive class and make sure it's well-rounded and connected back to what the Dharma talk was about, right? No Dharma talk at the beginning that we never come back to. We close it out and wrap it up. So I said something about as you start to bring some movement back into your fingers and toes, just take a moment to notice where your mind went during Shavasana. Did it go back to a pose that you struggled with? Did it jump forward to what you plan to make for dinner as soon as class ends? Just notice the practice of yoga isn't about reaching a state where the mind never wanders. It's about how quickly we can come back when it does. It's about not missing the next ball because we're obsessed or fixated and focused on the last one. As you roll now to one side and make your way up to a seat, carry this with you. You are an active participant in your life. When you walk out those doors and someone cuts you off in traffic, or you get a frustrating email, or you're simply washing the dishes and would rather just be doing anything else, remember the tennis court. Don't live in the miss. Don't live in the point. Just stay in the swing of the present moment. as it's coming at you. So thank you so much for listening and being a part of a class that I taught this past week. I know my own story of watching my daughter play tennis might not feel very pertinent for you to share yourself because it was my experience, but hopefully it has you reflecting on experiences that might give you inspiration to connect the teachings to, or even an example in your own life that's very similar to the tennis example, but you can thread it through in your own way. It also wasn't a theme I was looking to find, but just by being present in what was happening around me, I was able to find inspiration in the real world to take back to my students. And you can do that too. I even, as soon as I got back to the house, opened like the notes app on my phone and wrote, focus on tennis and not missing the ball. And that reminded me what I wanted to teach about later. So I very much look forward to sharing space with you all next week. Same time, same place, Theme Weavers Thursday. I actually almost didn't record this episode today. I was feeling, I've been so tired and just stagnant. And to come up with the energy, it's now Monday when I'm recording this to go live on Thursday. And usually I like to be like 2 weeks ahead. And I almost was like, should I not even bother doing an episode? Are people listening? I was starting to get into the whole like, what's the point of doing this? Is anybody on the other end? Are people feeling connected to this? You know, getting close to 100 episodes. Only a few more, I think, until we get 100, maybe like another month and a half. And we've hit 100 episodes of Theme Weavers. And I don't do this for me, although on occasion I've like looked back at old episodes to get re-inspired for a theme. But I do it to be a resource to you, whether you're a chromatic yoga teacher or somebody in the yoga community that wants to teach deeper than just the asanas, just the postures, and maybe be inspired by what you could teach to your own students, or a yoga student yourself that just wants to learn more than what you've had the opportunity to learn so far. But I was starting to get into like, is anybody listening to this? My brain was going into comparison mode. There's a few other yoga podcasts, like, are they significantly more successful than I was doing the comparison, not being in the moment? And I was starting to feel a little bit defeated for no good reason whatsoever. I don't know. I decided I'm just going to share this story with you, share this class, and hopefully it lands. I hope. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I hope there's people on the other line. I actually, on the other end of this, it's funny. When I almost gave up today, I was like, I'm just going to skip a week. I just don't have the energy. My husband's traveling for work. I have to teach again. I have a rehearsal for a show that I'm in. I was just feeling down and not inspired, or not inspired. I was inspired, just not feeling like anybody's on the other end. All of a sudden, I got a notification that one of you left a comment on a past episode and said how much they look forward to listening to the episodes. And I was like, this is a sign. I have to record. Somebody's listening. Even if it's just one person, somebody's listening. I know it's not one person because I can see the stats, if you will. I don't know what they're called. Analytics, I believe. But anyway, you know, it's so easy to get into comparison mode. And hopefully just as easily or with just as much practice, we can pull ourselves out and back into the present moment that we're at. So that way we can share with each other and be inspired. So with that in mind, thank you to the person who commented today. You got me out into the barn to record for you with my winter hat on and my cozy sweatshirt. So that way we could not lose momentum on our Theme Weavers Thursday drop. So thank you, whoever you were. I look forward to sharing with you all next week. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next week with a new theme and inspiration to bring to your yoga practice and your teaching. See you next time.